got 8 teams left. Are there any teams left in this competition? And you look at the two groups, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, England, New Zealand in one. In the other section, we've got Zimbabwe, India, South Africa and West Indies. Are there any teams in the last 8 who can't realistically win it, do you think? It's a nice, easy question. That's like a Mitchell Johnson short ball into your chest first up.
It's a difficult. I mean, it goes without saying. I mean, you've got a Super 8 for a reason because they're, these are the teams that have played the best cricket. I mean, who do I think is?
Can Zimbabwe win it realistically?
I think Zimbabwe would probably be on the list, respectfully to them. I don't think they've quite got the firepower compared to some of the nations around them.
And they're in a tough group as well, aren't they?
Plus, they're in a tough group.
They played amazingly in the group stage.
They've been absolutely brilliant. I mean, they played superbly against Australia. They played superbly against Sri Lanka. But then you might just say, are those two of the strongest sides? Possibly not. Well, Australia are heading home, and Sri Lanka, I don't know. They've got some talented players, but I mean, they did lose that series 3-0 to England coming into this T20 World Cup. Can England win it?
I mean, I'd like them to win.
That sounds like no to me.
I'd like them to win it.
Yeah.
I mean, my concern still is around selection a little bit with the England team. I feel I would have liked to have seen Joe Root in the lineup, just simply because as this tournament wears on, the pitches are going to get slower, lower, turn more. Scores generally come down as you go nearer nearer the final. So for me, having Joe Root's experience in that middle order, almost like being the safety valve, if you like, respectfully, he saw someone who can park the ball into the stands, but he's a wonderful player of spin, which then I think allows the kind of more bullish players around him to keep going hard. I just feel we just don't possess that player at the moment. I think Sam Curran is almost tried to fit that role, but I would have preferred to have Joe Root in the side.
Last T20 match for Joe Root international level was in Cardiff in 2019. But I mean, I understand your point, is that in special
it's a bit left field, but
special circumstances mean different things.
Purely I'm saying this because of the conditions, knowing that these pitches will get more tired, slower, lower, and historically, sometimes when you pick a team full of hitters, if it's almost like they leave it to each other. There isn't that sort of player that takes on the responsibility. They just keep going hard, and sometimes that isn't always the best method.
So a bit sceptical about England, very sceptical about Zimbabwe.
Yep.
What about the other 6 teams? I mean, can Pakistan win it realistically?
What side? This depends what side of the bed they turn up on. I mean, I would say in terms of talent, they're probably one of the most talented, and we've always said this about Pakistan, don't we? They're one of probably the most talented teams out there, but on certain given days, you just do not know, as Finney said. I mean, they got absolutely hammered against India. I mean, I thought that would have been personally a closer game. But, I mean, India literally cakewalked it. So you just really don't know. But if they look again, T20, it's sometimes one over that can just change things around. You just never know.
I like South Africa, and I think that's the romantic side of my brain, given what happened to them in the last T20 World Cup in 2024. But they've just been there or thereabouts, haven't they? They won the World Test Championship final, so they've played in that big game and got over the line against a good team. So you'd think that they'll have good memories as a result of that pressure that they'd have felt in that. They've consistently been to the latter stages, and they look to me to have every base covered. Where I look at Pakistan's team here in front of me, where's their death bowling? Who's going to bowl their death overs there? I don't really see it, with Shaheen Afridi not hitting his straps in recent years. I think England can challenge, and I think if England turn up and play as good as they can and as well as they can, I think they can challenge. But again, death bowling outside of Jofra Archer is a worry for me in that team. I think the winner will come from either South Africa or India. With a few other teams can push and challenge, but they're the 2 strongest teams, I think.
Abhishek's with us now, Abhishek Jhunjhunwala, who is Indian. What do you make of India as a T24. They've lost a few players, haven't they? They've lost a couple of their experienced players. And I don't know, the other day I saw them for the Netherlands. It wasn't the most convincing performance then, but then it wasn't the most crucial game.
Yeah, I think on papers we know how strong they are, and they've got, and we were discussing this as well, that they've got so many talented players who are not even in the squad. You look at the Shreyas Iyer, you look at the Shubman Gill, Yashasvi Jaiswal, Rishabh Pant, probably these four will fit into any playing 11 apart from India at the moment. So it just shows you how strong they are. But again, a T20 format, you're always a bit worried about this format. But it's just one bad day, and that can happen to anybody. Especially the brand of cricket India is playing at the moment. They're so ultra aggressive that, yes, majority of the time they'll score 180, 200, 220, but there will be days when they'll be rolled out for 80 as well. And can that happen in the Super 8, or can that happen in the semi-final?
It's the semi-final that might be the biggest worry, mightn't it? Because you can drag one back from the Super 8s. You can probably afford one defeat.
But in the semi-final, if that day comes on the semi-final where they go hammer and tonk and they're rolled out for 80, and that could happen to a brand of cricket they are playing. But I genuinely feel South Africa, West Indies, England, India, these four will be my top contenders to win this tournament.
And on the flip side of saying that a team can have a bad day and be bowled out, you look at the team like the West Indies and the amount of individual match winners that they have in their squad at their disposal. It's one day out for one of those players. A Hetmeyer scores 100 off 40 or something, and the game's done. That's the beauty of T20 cricket, is that someone can have an absolute day out. So, but when you look on paper, for me, the two strongest sides, South Africa and India, but there are some really talented players in those other teams that will keep them in the hunt.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed, Abhishek, you picked for your potential winners. You went for three from one group, and it does seem a bit odd, doesn't it, that the group winners have all gone to one group and the runners-up have gone to the other group. I mean, it does feel as though this is, they're all strongish teams, aren't they? But this does feel like marginally the weaker of the two groups, and actually their playing records in this competition suggest that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and again, it's if it's the right thing or the wrong thing, it's not for us to judge, but this has been done way before the tournament happened. But again, we cannot take New Zealand out of this equation as well, because you look at some of their players, and as Finney was mentioning, on the day in T20 cricket, you need two players. You need one bowler and a batter to perform, and you can win the game, you can win the competition. So they have so much talent in their lineup as well. A Glenn Phillip comes off, or a Tim Seifert, or they've got so much talent. Daryl Mitchell, they have got talented players in their ranks.
I wonder if their batting is a bit stronger than their bowling.
Well, Neesham at 8 it seems crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Neesham, who has batted much higher, and for me is probably more of a batter than he is a bowler in this format of the game, is batting at number 8. So they've gone for the England style approach of pack the batting, pack it with all-rounders through that middle order, and if someone's having a day out, then they run with them.
What have we made of the competition so far?
I quite enjoyed it. I like the 20-team format, because, again, it gives us a very good insight of around the world what's happening. Some of the teams like Italy, they surprise us. I think Italy surprised us immensely, the way they played their cricket, and also Nepal, brilliant on the field. And it's just great for associate nations to come out and play against some of the bigger nations. And as we discussed earlier, the gap is getting smaller and smaller day by day.
Yeah, we didn't have those huge upsets. Warhead Zimbabwe beating Australia, which I think raised a few eyebrows. We didn't have but the games were closer, weren't they?
There's jeopardy, isn't there?
A bit more, yeah. Oman perhaps not so good, but the rest not bad. I mean, I was quite impressed with the United States, actually.
Yeah, and the different format, but you look at the 50 over World Cup in 2023. It was the longest slog of a 2-month tournament that I'd sat through in my life, because each team plays the other 9, and there was jeopardy. I was at the England games in the stadium where they had the close one with Nepal.
Yeah.
Then Italy were on a roll, and it felt like they might get close. And you're there nervous. You're watching on the edge of your seat. So even though we didn't have those big upsets, I think the Afghanistan and Zimbabwe wins aren't upsets for me in the context of this format. But some of those big teams were pushed close, and they'd have been nervous. And they're not far away, as Abhishek says, from being on a more level playing field.
Yeah, my only thing is, can you call USA the India third team? The amount of players who have migrated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that will presumably change over time as well. That will change over time. There were a few players of South Asian origin who were born in the USA who were playing in that United States team, and that's where the kind of the power base is now, especially in the administration as well.
And it's the visibility, isn't it? The visibility of seeing these teams and it being broadcast around the world, and people in those countries or with allegiances to those countries seeing that it is possible to play on the biggest stage for their country. So over time you might see a change in that and more participation, and that's the great thing about this 20-team format for me, is the platforms that it's given people on a stage such as this in the World Cup.
Yeah. Just one final question. Do you think in the future we should actually have a proper qualifying tournament? So the World Cup, Football World Cup, I mean, everyone has to qualify, don't they? Whereas in this competition, it's like a bit of a shoe-in, isn't it, for a few teams? How well you've done in the last World Cup, top 8 get through, Zimbabwe through next time, and a few on seedings on the rankings. Would it be good to have a proper qualifying tournament, so that also that means that the associate nations get to play some of the bigger teams as well and get more exposure?
I think it would. I mean, if we want to romanticise it, then yes. But we're already crying that there's too much cricket, and the players saying that there's too much cricket, and the proliferation of T20 leagues as well means that where do you find that gap in the schedule to do that? I saw the idea of the other day of a Cricks Nations, the European teams all playing against each other, like the Six Nations rugby, which again would be romantic and it would give a platform to those teams, but where's the time?
Yeah. I mean, that is the thing, isn't it? We a cricket calendar that needs about 16 months for each year, and we've only got 12. Abhishek?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Exactly what Finney said. There's no time, unfortunately. That'll be a great thing for cricket, and it'll be wonderful for the associate nation to get that opportunity. And I also feel that all the top nations, the top 8, should be playing a lot more with the associate nation. Even if it's not their first team, they should be sending some team and try and play cricket regularly with them, just to bring them up and improve their standard of cricket.
Well, here's an idea. Get rid of all bilateral 50-over cricket and just play 50-over World Cups, which I would change the format to a 40-over World Cup, but that's a story for another day. And then that's where you create the space to have a qualifying tournament, things like that. In T20 cricket, it feels that's the way the landscape is shifting to me, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, there are 2 50-over World Cups that are locked into the schedule, 27 in South Africa.
Oh, they should definitely happen.
Yeah.
I think because they're great tournaments. So the 50-over World Cup is still a massively prestigious thing. To me, the T20 World Cup probably happens too frequently, every 18 months or so. It loses the magic of it. The trophy changes hands too often, but a 50-over World Cup is still a massive event. An ODI World Cup, soon to be the 40-over format, is still a great thing to be able to win. But if those just happened and no bilateral one-day international cricket happened, I don't think anyone would lose too much sleep. I certainly wouldn't.
You wouldn't be able to prepare much for a 40-straight 50-over World Cup, would you? Tough, is it?
Just have to deal with it.
Just tough. Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it, to compare. I think this has been quite a vibrant competition so far, and we've got Super 8s and the semi-finals and final. Hopefully, we're going to get some fabulous cricket in the next couple of weeks, but it has felt a bit more vibrant, I think, than the last 50-over World Cup, which was a bit of a slog, and obviously does go on for a long time. But what it does mean is you can fight back, and there's a bit, there is, if you like, there's more subtlety to the 50-over game in a way, but I don't know, are we living in that world anymore?
I don't think the playing field is as level with the teams that don't have the depth, whereas I think the T20 format does level it out just slightly.
Yeah.
This is the TMS podcast from BBC Radio 5 Live.
So let's have a chat about England. We did touch on them earlier, whether they are potential winners of this T20 World Cup. There was some scepticism and some optimism here in our commentary box. But let's talk about them as a team, and it's kind of, I don't know, what do we think about? Let's start off with this. Are they a much better batting team than bowling team? Is batting where their real strength lies, and they're kind of playing catch up a little bit with the bowling?
Well, I think certainly when you look at their team 1 to 11 and the way that they've constructed their teams beyond that first game against Nepal, where they played Luke Wood as a specialist bowler to try and take wickets in the power play. After that game and how tight they got run by Nepal, they opted to change to give themselves the depth of having Jamie Overton at number 8, and actually that got them out of trouble against Italy. Having that long batting lineup meant that Will Jacks put on a partnership with a few of the lower order there to boost that England total. So that seems to be the way that they're going throughout this tournament. Whether that balance of team will win them it in the conditions that they're about to face, I think, is another question.
What do you think, Michael Carberry?
I'm more. I think there's a selection problem. I think in terms of, again, you're picking horses for courses. You're looking at these wickets which are going to get slower and lower as the tournament wears on. So generally, you'd think the scores are going to come down to some degree. I just feel the batting lineup, the approach of the batting lineup, is all, again, is non-adaptable. I think you need players who can complement the hitters, so to speak. You need those players who can work the ball around but still have the ability to hit boundaries if needed. I think I said before, I personally would have had Joe Root in the side simply because of the fact he can play a numerous variety of different styles of innings. And I think if you're going to win games of cricket, for me, I'm not one for this blanket approach of everyone just go out hard. I think you have to play the conditions, and especially as conditions change, you need to have players who can do that. So for me, that's the concern. If I look at this England batting lineup, I don't see it being very flexible or adaptable. If it clicks on a day, don't get me wrong, it's as dangerous a batting line. I think it's probably fair to say it's probably one of the most dangerous batting lineups in the world. But it's that word, if it clicks. And if the ball does nothing, and the likelihood is, as this tournament wears on, the ball is unlikely to do nothing. It's going to go sideways one way or another. So I'm a little bit concerned with the makeup of our team.
Abhishek, Jujunwala's here as well. How do you see England from a more neutral perspective, less skin in the game?
I think what we have seen so far, that the batting is a bit of a struggle. At times when it clicks, it looks very good, but I think opening has been a bit of an issue for England. And I think Jos Buttler is somebody who's got the most experience in playing in these conditions. And for England to do well, I think he's got to do well. And when Jos Buttler doesn't do well in subcontinent, with all the experience, it puts a lot of pressure in the middle order, which is also not clicking. You've seen some brilliance from the likes of Jacob Bethel, Tom Banton, Harry Brook. We know that how much talent he's got, but has he justified his talent so far? Not yet. But he's somebody who can take the game away from the opposition on his day. But will that day come in this World Cup? That's the big question mark again.
I've seen some comment actually about Harry Brook. I mean, he didn't play in the IPL last year. Yeah. Is he a player that you think needs to play in that sort of competition to improve? Because although he's supremely talented in certain areas, actually that area against spin is another area he really needs to improve significantly? Or do you see them actually as being reasonably effective against slow bowling?
No, I think what we have seen over the years with players who have played a lot of cricket in the IPL, the ability to play spin has improved immensely. And some of the players have seen drastic improvement in 2 or 3 years if they've spent enough time in India, and which happens to everyone because you get used to the conditions. And I'm not just talking about the amount of balls you are facing in the match situation. It's the amount of balls you face in the nets that's more crucial for me than the match, because match you don't get that much time against spinners. But in the nets in India, you play so many different variety of net bowlers who come from all over the place, and that really improves you as a cricketer, because also in the nets you don't always necessarily get the best pitches either. So there could be tricky pitches where you have to manage, you still have to find a way to score runs in the nets. Obviously, you always have that, you visualize how you're batting, where are the fielders, where are the gaps in the net as well. So I think that's where you improve the most, and that will immensely help Harry Brook if he goes and plays the IPL. And you can see a bit of flaw in his batting when it comes to spin. Yes, he's very good at hitting, but when the ball starts turning and gripping, that's where he struggles. When the ball comes onto the bat, you'll find most of the batters absolutely comfortable. It's about when the ball starts breaking, the ball starts turning, how good you are against them. And that's where we have seen some issues with quite a few cricketers.
And that's what we think is going to happen, Carbs.
I think that's a good point that Abhishek makes there. And I think Harry Brook has got all the talent in the world. I think the problem, as an onlooker, when I watch Harry Brook bat, it's all one-way traffic, and I think if he's going to be one of the best players in the world, I think it's something he's going to have to figure out over time is, how to play a variety of innings, and there's times during, whether it's tournament play, where you have to be able to adapt to the pitches you're playing on, to the pace of the pitches, whether they start to turn or whatever the case may be. The worry is, and has always been about English cricket over the last 12, 18 months, is this is how we're going to play no matter what. And we've come unstuck. It's that simple.
Don't you think you have to play like that in modern T20 though?
No, I don't. Because the best teams who've won tournaments, and I've won tournaments, you've had to adapt. That's depending on where you go. You have to play the conditions at times. Yes, you can have an overall view of how you want to play. I get that. Yes, your batting unit, you're there to be aggressive. But sometimes you have to, if you're 3 down for 10, do you keep swinging for the fences? Like, you've got to understand that there's certain times where, look, for the next maybe 5 overs, we've got to just build a 30-40 run partnership, keep wickets in hand. You can launch maybe for the last 6 or 7 overs with wickets in hand, but you can't keep hemorrhaging wickets saying, well, the Italy how many of us getting out sweeping? It wasn't that kind of wicket. So you've got to, at some point you've got to adapt. That's what I'm saying. You just got to adapt and be flexible enough and open-minded enough to be able to adapt.
And I think we've seen that on a different context with Surya Kumar Yadav in this World Cup. He is an ultra-aggressive player. We know he likes to come out there and hit the ball for 4s and 6s from the very first go. But if you see how he has adapted in that middle order, he's playing an anchor sheet now in this World Cup. He's not a Surya Kumar Yadav. We know that he's going out there and trying all those fancy shots very early in his innings. If you look at the majority of the innings he has played in this World Cup so far, he's taken 20 balls for his first 20. Once he's set, once he's got used to the conditions and what the bowlers are trying to do, then he has gone out there and plays those big shots. So I think that's what Carves is mentioning. It's not that you have to curtail your game completely, but you got to give yourself that extra bit of time in these conditions where you adapt to the conditions, you understand what the pitch is doing and also what the bowler is trying to do. And once you're set, these guys can hit 6s for fun. We have seen that, Simon. They can hit 3 6s in an over. So playing a catch-up for them is so easy nowadays. It's not like old times where when you are behind, you'll always be behind. These guys can change gears like that.
Should Brook bat higher? He's at number 5. Should he bat higher in the order?
Well, there's an argument for it, isn't there? But I think Tom Banton's been brought in because of the way that he plays spin in particular. His strike rate across all T20 competitions, that's all the sanctioned T20 competitions across the world in the last 2 years, he has the highest strike rate against spin with an excellent average. His strike rate is 190 in that time. And so that's the reason why he's been picked. I think it would be between him and Duckett to bat in that number 4 position with the way that Duckett sweeps, reverse sweeps, is able to manipulate the strike. Will be the reason why those guys are there. So that kind of means that if they're there to particularly fulfill that role, then Brook either has to bat at 3, which is where Jacob Bethel bats and is doing a good job at the moment, or he bats at 4, with the caveat that anything can change in T20 cricket and they can move up or down the order. The opening partnership hasn't fired, so they've lost early wickets, which has meant that there's been no situation where Harry Brook might be able to leapfrog those other guys. So for the time being, yes, but you'd like to see a degree of flexibility if they can get that opening partnership to fire.
Yeah, I mean, is that just one of those things, the opening partnership? We've seen Abhishek Sharma, who's such a talented player for India.
He's yet to get off the mark.
3 ducks. I mean, it's absolutely astonishing, really. 3 ducks. I mean, you have to go some to do that, don't you? Yep. When you've got that much talent.
They're Stephen Finn numbers, those.
But so is it just one of those things, the opening partnership, or?
Well, Salt's threatened. Salt has had a couple of 30s where he's been timing the ball really nicely and then has just got out. Whereas Buttler has not looked quite himself, has he? He's been a bit non-committal when you think of the best version of Jos Buttler. He's decisive. He probably does give himself a little bit more time than a Phil Salt does inside those first 6 overs. But he just doesn't look like he's got his rhythm at the moment. But you would always back Jos Buttler to come good. So yeah, disappointing that they haven't fired just yet, but it's no cause for panic or concern at the moment.
You've been following the England team around in the group stage. Do you think actually for them, it's a strange thing to say because it's international cricket, that the group stages don't quite possibly get the juices flowing because of the opposition, and that now the next challenge, it's a significant one, Super 8, that they it might get them going a bit more?
Well,
is that just too sort of crass an observation?
No, absolutely not. No, there's definitely merit in it, and it's a longish tournament. Even though it's a T20 World Cup, and you think T20 cricket is sharp and snappy, it's still a 5-week tournament. It pales in significance to the 50-over World Cup, but that's another story. But I think you want to build into your tournament, not intentionally. You don't want to turn up and think, we'll take these group stages a bit easy, scrape our way through and build momentum. But sometimes
they're not juicy games, though, are they? You look at them, you think, Italy today, Scotland today, we should win. It's so much expectation, isn't it?
It's probably more subconscious, I'd say, because still there's absolutely no way that England are turning up to those grounds saying, see what happens today. I think it's more of a subconscious thing in the back of your mind. You're like, we should be all right today, but you never know. And England have found themselves in that situation a few times, didn't they, throughout that group stage, to those teams where their hearts would have been in their mouths.
At certain times.
Yes.
Scotland, when they were bashing it in that partnership with Berrington and Bruce, you thought, hold on a second, they could get 200 here.
Well, there were some nervy moments. Trust me, I was broadcasting on it, watching it, thinking we'll have to dissect the entirety of English cricket in the group stage of the T20 World Cup, but we eventually didn't have to do that for the time being. But so look at the last one that they won in 2022. They lost to Ireland in that rain-affected game, didn't they? And everyone's saying, this team's not what it's cracked up to be. And then you find your rhythm, you splutter into motion, and they've got big game players. You want your players who can handle the pressure in those situations as you go through the tournament. And so far in those games that they've been pushed, it's been different people each time that have stood up. Will Jacks, Sam Curran, Tom Banton, different names to the usual Butler, Salt,
which is good for the
Brooke,
team,
which I think is a good thing. I do still think, though, that in these conditions that they're going to face, because they've packed the batting, you're always playing catch up with your fifth bowler, and that's where in the games that have become tight, it's been the fifth bowler who's been taken down.
This is the TMS Podcast.
Let's talk a bit more about the bowling now. We talked about the batting. Look, the batting seems okay. I take Carbs' point that you might sometimes it is a bit right. Go for it, and then you fall apart. And would someone like Joe Root, who's not played a T20 match for 6 years, be a better option in Sri Lankan conditions? I totally take that point. And there's a good argument for it, and you've made that argument. The batting, to me, generally speaking, looks pretty solid, but I think the bowling seems to have some cracks in it. Is that fair or not? Is it just that you come up against these teams, you're having a bit of a shot out on a day, and you feel a bit of pressure, you're expected to win, and suddenly it all starts to feel it's going wrong, and then it continues to go wrong? Or is the bowling under pressure?
I would say again, it looks as though it lacks a plan. It looks under fire when, let's say, Nepal started to get after us. We suddenly started to just test the middle of the wicket. We didn't seem to really have a plan. It seemed to be a little bit scattergun for a period of time until Sam Curran was able to sort of rescue it right at the end. And I think, Finney will be able to tell you more than I will about death bowling, but I think, you speak to most bowlers, most great bowlers. It's really about having a plan and trying to execute those plans. And I'm not convinced at the moment when I watch England bowl, certainly at the death, like we're altogether sure as to how we're going to tie down batters certainly at the back end of an innings. Like Sam Curran, watching him bowl that over,
which one against
Nepal? Like you could see he was going to go fast and at the feet and use his left arm angle. So, and he executed very well. But my point being is there's a plan. Now, if Sam Curran got smacked, well, you can't really have a go at him because at least he's walked in there with a plan. So the other seamers, I'm just not so sure when I've watched it just seems like we're going to try a little bit of back of a length. We're going to try a bit of foot. There just doesn't seem to be right. This is what we're going to do, and try and execute it. And I think because sometimes in T20 cricket, when you start to go the double bluff route, it can be very, very costly.
Abhishek, would Indian batters look at that England attack and think, we'll have a bit of that in the semi-final? The England attack, vulnerable?
I think where they look most vulnerable to me is between the 7th and the 15th over. You've got Adil Rashid, who's world class, probably one of the best leg spinners in the world for the last so many years. It's surprising that he hasn't played more leagues. But if they go after him, finger spinners.
It does give you a chance as well, doesn't it?
It does give you a chance because he does toss the ball up. And with India so heavily loaded with left-handers, it does give them an added advantage, even though he bowls a lovely googly, but people know that he's going to bowl googlies at them. So with the left-handers, India does have a bit of an advantage, but where they have a bit of an issue as well, because they've got, and also Liam Dawson. Finger spinners for me in T20 cricket are the easiest to go after. If you see stats in the last 5-10 years, finger spinners are losing their space in that T20 format because they don't have the same sort of variety which a wrist spinner can have, or somebody who comes with a mystery spinner who has a lot of variety. With the wrist, they have two deliveries, one finger spin, or they can bowl an arm ball. So very predictable. So I think from that point of view, from spin point of view, they look quite light again in that period between 6th, 7th and the 15th over. If the spinners can bowl well, I think England has the rest. Sam Curran can do a job and a half with the ball. And at the death with his Yorker, slower deliveries, he bowls lovely different varieties. But yeah, I think bowling is somewhere where other teams will look and see that there is a bit of an option. Gap there for England.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in there on Abhishek's point there. Was there a case then of getting a Ray and Ahmed in, as using two wrist spinners versus
rather than Liam Dawson?
Potentially, yeah. Because again, it's hard to set yourself as a batter because I especially in modern day play now, right, where I think batters of today watch an area. They don't watch the hand. Right? They you hear it all the time. If he lands in my area, I'm going to attack, which is fair enough, right? But this is where I think the wrist spinners now have an advantage, because you're looking for those little subtleties, back of the hand versus front of the hand, to try and get little cues so you can set yourself for those big shots. Now, if you are looking at an area, you can miss that vital bit of information just there in that split second. So for me, put the doubt in the batsman's mind by having the options at your using the options at your disposal. It's not to say Liam Dawson has bowled badly. I don't think he's bowled badly. The problem is with Liam's bowling is I think it just lacks a little. It's a little bit the same. Like he will try and bowl wicket to wicket, but it's generally the same pace. Like he doesn't have an Adil Rashid where he's able to slow it right up. Jadeja, look at those guys, that sort of ilk of bowler where he was able to take pace off or then fire in the quicker one. It's generally the same. So I case in point to get maybe Ray and Ahmed in, and then he still offers you something with the bat as well. He's a good fielder, so there's it's a three-way package there.
They used him to open the batting actually in that Sri Lanka series, didn't they? Going into the T20 World Cup. What about Rayan Ahmed at this stage, Stephen?
Well, I think clearly a viable option, but for me probably not for Dawson, only because Dawson has bowled in the power play, and I don't think you could have I think it's really hard for a wrist spinner to bowl in the power play, with Luke Wood not being picked for the game since the Nepal game.
And you couldn't have Will Jacks bowling in the power play?
I mean, on the evidence that we've seen, probably not, I would say. So Dawson is fulfilling that role in the power play as a finger spinner because he has that element of control. But certainly I wouldn't be against playing two wrist spinners through the middle, but it would have to be at the expense of Will Jacks, who has got 2 player of the match medals. I'm not sure what prize you get, whether it's a watch or a medal or whatever. I think once you get to the semis, it's a watch, actually.
Is it?
Yeah,
not a motorbike?
Not a motorbike, no. They're the good old days. They were the good old days. So I think MS Dhoni won 7 motorbikes in a series against us in 2011. But I think it would have to be for Will Jacks or Jamie Overton, If you leave Overton out, you're going for one seamer, Jofra Archer. So yeah, it's hard to see how he fits into it, but he's someone that you want him there, and you want him as an option for sure.
Yeah, well, he's a talented cricketer, isn't he? And you look at the future with him, and you hope he'll progress, and you hope he'll become a champion player as
well,
time
the thing
goes
is,
on.
you want him to play, because for a wrist spinner in particular, it's repetition, bowling in scenarios. I think it's really hard to just come in off the bat and pick up the pace of international cricket, because it can be punishing as well for a young man. So you want to find ways for him to get opportunities to play, to then grow into that role for the day that when it does come, Adil Rashid isn't going to go on forever, even though he's fit, he's bowling well. You want enough experience on your wrist spinner who's going to come in and replace him, and Rehan Ahmed is that person.
One final point about England's bowling. Let's just talk about Jofra for a moment. Jofra Archer. He's had a mixed tournament so far. He did, of course, come into it recovering from a side issue, which he picked up during the Ashes, so he's kind of making his way back in after injury. What do we think about the way he's gone so far?
I think he'll come good. I think he bowled quick in the game against Italy in the power play. I'm not concerned, I don't think, about Jofra going into this latter stages. I think this is where he enjoys the pressure of this end, the business end of a World Cup.
Yeah, I think his pace has been good. I think through the tournament, it's good to see him running in. What I would like to see from Jofra is to just, again, simplify his plans down a little bit more. I think, he's a good enough bowler. I think he's got enough skills to be able to hit top of off more often than he does. I think sometimes guilty again of, sometimes when he's been hit for boundaries, to start going a bit too short and getting a bit predictable. So I'd like to see him use that pace to his advantage, but I think he's a good enough bowler to go, if he's someone like going at hard test match lengths, he's still a formidable opponent to try and take on.
Abhishek, what do you think of Jofra? Have you seen enough of him in this tournament?
I have. My only thing with T20 cricket is nothing to do with Jofra Archer, is that sometimes it's too much pace is a good thing for T20 cricket. That's my only concern, because I think for batters, especially in these subcontinent pitches where sometimes there might not be enough pace on the surface which could work towards the bowlers, and somebody like Jofra who gives that extra bit of pace which the batters are waiting for can work on their favour. So that's
so
something.
we're talking here about, so if you're bowling pace top of off, like Kaz was saying, that's harder. But if you're bowling short,
you're bowling short, you're giving a bit of room.
You're giving a lot of opportunity.
Just a little bit of room.
Yeah.
In this format, you don't have to give a lot of room, Simon. You just need to give even like 4 or 5 inches is more than enough for a batter to work things out. So I think sometimes, as a batter, I think they enjoy an extra bit of pace on subcontinent pitches, because we've seen a lot of bowlers who doesn't bowl at 150 kilometers an hour. They have a better outing because the ball just grips a little bit, holds a little bit, and they just don't give that much pace to the batter.
Well, the leading wicket taker in the tournament is Shadley Van Schalkwijk.
Yeah.
I mean,
73 mile an hour pace off.
Exactly. And I think just subcontinent, I've seen over the years, you look at the stats, you look at the bowlers, anybody who bowls at that pace is a lot more successful than somebody who bowls at 150 kilometers an hour.
Okay, final point on England. I'm going to put you all on the spot. A bit of fun. Where are England going to exit this tournament? Are they going to exit in the Super 8 stage, semi-final, in the final, or are they going to be holding the trophy up in a few weeks' time? Let's start with you, Abhishek.
I think they'll definitely go to the top 4.
So semi-final.
Semi-final, but then after that, anybody's game, as I said earlier. On the day, whoever plays better goes to the final.
Carbs?
I'm not so sure semi-finals, if I'll be honest.
Okay, so losing the Super 8 stage, not get through the Super 8. And what about you, Stephen?
I think they're going to get to the final.
Okay.
I do. Judging by the rain that I can see in Pallekele on social media this evening, they might be lucky to bowl a ball. So, it could be absolute potluck.
What, against Sri Lanka?
By Jack Wood, our producer, who's just posted something on social media. And it looks like Manchester in the middle of winter. So, There's a fair amount of rain
Yeah.
in Pallekele.
Well, I bet it's not quite like Manchester in the middle of winter in Pallekele.
Slightly more tropical.
I've been to Pallekele. It's a little bit warmer than Manchester in the middle of winter. I take your point possibly about the rain. With apologies to people listening from Manchester. Look, my wife's from Manchester. I can say these things about the Manchester weather. So let's hear from the England camp then. In a moment, we'll hear from new white ball vice captain Jacob Bethell. But first, here's captain Harry Brook with the BBC's Matt Henry.
Harry, you've had 6 days off since England last played on Monday. What have you been up to?
I think it was a good time to freshen up a little bit. To be fair, we obviously had a tricky situation, tricky period in the first part of the tournament, so it's good to get away from cricket for a little bit and reflect and hit the ground running yesterday and today.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, or what's the team said about how that group stage went? I think you admitted it didn't quite click. Any reasons for that?
I think we probably underestimated a couple of the sides. We didn't quite think they'd come out with as much power and force as they did with the bat, especially, and they put us in situations which will hold us in good stead. I think going into the deeper parts of the tournament, knowing that we can win in them tricky situations where they're probably ahead of the game and we can claw it back.
Yeah. Jacob Bethell spoke to us yesterday, and he said that there's like a lot of unknowns around playing the Associate Nations. Is that something you, and then as a result, found that difficult? Is that something you found?
Yeah, definitely. We obviously didn't know all the players, and we had minimal stats on some of them, and that's something that we can definitely improve on in the future, especially in tournaments further down the line. Getting your homework done a little bit earlier and knowing where their strengths and weaknesses are.
Yeah. Does the Super 8s and teams that you've played, particularly Sri Lanka, you've played very recently, but New Zealand and Pakistan as well, does that bring a bit more certainty and hopefully make things clearer for you?
Yeah, we've obviously played them quite a lot, and we know exactly what most of their players do, bar a couple. But there's a lot more stats on them. You can read a lot more and watch a lot more, and we've played a couple of them sides fairly recently and managed to get across the line against them as well. So we can take a lot of confidence from them.
Yeah. The other sort of big news this week, or topical conversation, has been around this issue with Pakistan players potentially not being picked for the Indian-owned teams in the 100. Would you be comfortable playing for a team, captaining a team that has excluded players on where they were born, on nationality?
My main focus at the minute is to play the T20 World Cup. That part of the 100 is above me, and whatever they decide to do, that's up to them. But look, Pakistan have been a great cricket nation for many years, and they've got some awesome players, some of the best players in the world, and it'd be a shame to not see some of them in the 100. Yeah.
Do you expect to be involved with conversations around who the team would buy? You obviously captained last season. Would you get involved with that sort of thing?
I've already said I'm not going to captain this year, so I'm staying away from that stuff, and I'll let the head coach and whoever's in charge control that.
Yeah. Looking forward to Sri Lanka now. You obviously played them earlier this month, never mind last month, straight after Australia. You beat them 3-0. How significant is that looking forward?
Yeah, we can take a lot of confidence from that. We've played 3 games here against them in their home nation with their crowds, and it's going to be the same tomorrow night. So we're looking forward to using them experiences that we had here already against that same opponent. And look, if we play our best cricket, not many teams can stop us, and hopefully we can all click.
Yeah. Did you learn anything in particular, or what were the things that you learned in that Sri Lanka series that you'll take into Sunday?
I think it's just about reading the pitch and the conditions as quickly as possible, and communication's key. We obviously had that last game against Sri Lanka where we only got 130, but that ended up being a winning score. So you never quite know what's going to happen with the pitch until you end up playing on it.
Yeah. And will you do anything different with your batting? As we said, there are quite a few stop-start innings, or getting in and then getting out. Do you plan to do anything different?
I just want us to be a little bit braver. I want us to take the game on a little bit more. I want us to not worry about the risk and look towards the reward rather than that. So that was one thing we spoke about, is thinking about the reward rather than risk. And we'd rather get out trying to hit a 6 than just chipping it up in the ring. So we just want to go out there and be a lot more braver and look to take the game on a lot more.
Is this the point England's tournament really starts?
I think we see it as a new tournament, really. That first stage is gone now. We don't take anything into that. There's no baggage or anything. We're just looking forward, and we've got to concentrate on what we've got next, and Sri Lanka being that first task.
Harry, I think you'll have seen the AI photo of you on a bus. And when I say it's you, is it you? I don't think it really is. What did you make of that?
I find it quite funny, to be fair. It obviously didn't quite work for the AI app or whatever it was, but yeah, I look like Voldemort on that.
Lads been giving you some stick?
Yeah, they gave me a little bit of stick, but it's not me, so I'm happy to take it on the chin.
Jacob, it's not often you get a week off or a few days off in the middle of a World Cup. How's that been? How have the last couple of days been? What's the team been up to?
Yeah, it's been nice. You know, went from Kolkata to Colombo for a day and a half or so. You know, just create a bit of space and a bit of time to reset, which has been nice. And then arrived in Kandy yesterday. Just had a chill day. I think a couple of the guys got out and about in the hotel and just saw a bit of Kandy, and now we're ready to get back going.
Yeah, Australia have gone out since we last spoke, since England last played. What did you make of that?
Yeah, it was good to see. You know, they just didn't seem like they got firing in the tournament, and you know, those group stages, if you don't hit the ground running, you're in danger of that happening. So it was a shame for them.
Yeah. Does that in some way point to the dangers of this group stage? There's been a lot of talk about how England have fared so far. Is it simply just about getting through at that point? It's not about trying to play your best cricket in the first stage?
Yeah, I think so. I think once you're through and you can focus on, you know, actually progressing in the tournament, coming up against sides you know better and have played against more, there's more knowns, I think, in not that I've played in a World Cup before, but I've played against a few of the sides that we're going to be playing in now. And it just felt like that group stage, there's quite a few unknowns in terms of brand of cricket that teams like to play, and that kind of stuff. It's hard to match up, you know, your intensity and all that, and intent with that. So I think this Super 8s will definitely provide more, you know, more knowledge.
Yeah. Is it you're expecting like a more structured, less sort of unstable sort of situation? You know who the teams you're playing, you've played them all before, and you think that'll help you. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. You know, the couple of the sides we came up against, Nepal and Italy, to be specific, you know, they came up with it looked like a nothing to lose kind of attitude, and you know that sometimes that's quite hard to play against, even though you are the side that's supposed to be winning it. So I think that, you know, we've played Sri Lanka obviously in a home series here, New Zealand and Pakistan we haven't played recently, but you know, we kind of know what how they go about things, so hopefully that'll help us.
Yeah. What about your own form? You've got 50 in the first game, a few scores, you've looked a little frustrated at the points you've got out as well. How do you sum it all up?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely frustrated, as in not frustrated overall, but you know, I've got loads of starts and just haven't gone big, but you know, I'll hopefully be saving that for Super 8s and any further in the tournament. Yeah. But it's feel like thinking the game well, hitting the ball well. It's just kind of T20 is sometimes weird. As soon as you try and, you know, do one thing and you get out, like you just got to keep coming back and keep approaching it the same way, and there'll be a big round the corner.
Yeah, it's been a long winter for you. You've been playing cricket for a long time. And a lot's happened. You go back to Sydney and we've not spoken to you since then. How are you kind of finding it all, and must be not tired out yet? Is that fair?
No, I'm all good. Enjoying it, to say the least. You know, as a kid growing up, it was my dream to, you know, travel the world playing cricket for England. So I'm not going to be complaining once that I have finally got the opportunity to do that. So I'm fine. You know, got the rest of this and then a little break after, so it'd be nice.
Yeah. What have you learned off the field? I know there's certain bits, go back to Wellington and that sort of thing, that you can't talk about at this point. But what have you learned generally about yourself off the field through the winter and the expectations maybe?
Not a whole lot, to be honest. I've travelled pretty much since I was 12 years old, you know, been away from home, so I kind of just am pretty self-sufficient. So I've learned that, you know, as a game you just need to keep approaching it in the right way, because you know you can sometimes overthink things or stuff like that. But you know, every day you have the same chance of going out there and doing something special. So just do that.
You think that could still to come in the next few days?
100%. Yeah.
You mentioned batters, or yourself getting in and getting out. Maybe that's been a bit of a trend among the team. Quite a few. I think it's 14 times a batter's got to 25 so far, an England batter, but no one's got over 75. Have you been able to put a finger on why that may be? Like a lot of starts and no really big match-defining scores, maybe aside from Tom Banson's innings against Scotland?
I don't really. There hasn't really been an opportunity to, there obviously has, but like, it's just felt that every time we try and put the foot down, someone hits a fielder and is walking off, and then we have to rebuild. So I think that's just the way it goes sometimes. I think, we've spoken about it. I think Brookie's spoken about it as well, saying that we're maybe playing a little bit within ourselves, and sometimes when you are doing that, those half chances, some would be sailing for six, or you get a bit of luck and they go your way. So I think, the messaging around our batting's kind of been like, all right, we got guys that are playing well, but let's just release that bit of tentativeness and go out there and give them the full shebang.
Yeah. How's Joss? A couple of low scores in the last couple of games. A bit of talk about his form, but you tell me, how is he?
Yeah, he's fine. He just didn't. The options he has taken haven't come off. But no one in that side is worried about Joss in terms of performance. He'll come good when we need him in the big stages of this tournament.
Yeah, is he someone you've learnt a lot from about batting at the top of the order? Almost, he was England's number 3 until not too long ago, a position you're now filling. Yeah,
I spoke to him quite a bit actually when we were here last time, just about the role and getting to grips with it and stuff like that. But he's good to talk about him about.
Yeah. What tips did he have for what's important at number 3?
He was just talking about the time you have to you're not going out there without intent, but it's just in the power play especially the sometimes the dot balls do build on you because the field's up, but then also other days you fly and hit none of the fielders and you get off to a flyer. So he's just said to acknowledge which day it is, not which day it is, but have that in the back of your mind that could happen and just give yourself a chance.
Yeah, and you've mentioned a couple of times being back here in Sri Lanka. It's obviously a place that you won 3-0 very recently, and all your matches in the Super 8 phase are going to be here. How significant do you think that could be for England's chances?
Yeah, it's very big. I think to beat a Sri Lankan team, a good Sri Lankan team at home in their conditions, 3-0 was a massive confidence booster for us. And then obviously we went away, done the group stages, and now we're back. And I think that you can feel it within the group. The boys are confident coming back here after, we know the conditions, we know how a couple of the teams are going to play. So I think we're definitely very confident about this Super 8.
Yeah, did you learn anything in particular about conditions here that you think was different to India? Because you had some high-scoring games here, but you had a low-scoring game which you bowled really well in at the very end as well. Is there anything that you've learned that you will take into the Super 8s? There's not as much kind of pace in these wickets, and you've got to be really on it with you hitting the stumps. If not, waywardness can be used especially by the Sri Lankan batters, who, as soon as the ball's not hitting the stumps, they're really able to kind of just manoeuvre the ball into gaps, and it's like, well, how's that 4? But it is 4 or 6. But I think the wicket will be pretty good. We saw Sri Lanka chase down pretty much 200 the other day against Australia. The only wicket that kind of did a lot for us was, and a low scoring affair, was after we played on it 3 times in that Sri Lanka series. So hopefully, I think we'll get fresh wickets for all the games. I mean, we only got 2 here, but I think there'll be nice wickets, and we're good at posting big totals on them. Yeah, is this the point that England's tournament really starts? Is this when you click into gear?
Hopefully, yeah. I think we've got through the tournament with, I wouldn't really say anyone firing on all cylinders. So I think, everyone's kind of, you can see everyone's gone away and just had a look at themselves and gone, all right, let's get going.